What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the A-10 Insider Podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network. My name is Rob Dosser. I have a fun interview coming your way with Josh Cohen, who is averaging 18 points and 8 boards for UMass this season, one of the better transfers in college basketball. It was a pretty enlightening interview. Josh is a very engaging young man, and I enjoyed his perspective on how hard it was for him to leave St. Francis, why he ended up at UMass when a program like a Florida and a program like an Iowa and a program like a Penn State were knocking down his door. I appreciate his insight on Frank Martin, the head coach, and I had a great time talking with him about some Jersey questions. People from outside of the state of New Jersey may not understand how important these questions are, but they were very important questions that needed to get answered. Not a ton happened in the last week in the A-10. St. Joseph's landed a big win over Princeton, which, actually matters. Princeton is 9-0 on the season heading into that game, and they had landed some pretty big wins throughout the year. So St. Joe's has continued playing some really, really impressive basketball. Again, they are one no-show against Texas A&M Commerce away from being in the top 25 conversation, which is not something that I think is crazy to say. They are very, very good. They are very, very dangerous. We got into all of that last week with Billy Lang. I do want to mention Saturday, December 16th. That is a big, big day for the Atlantic 10. LaSalle going on the road, taking on a Miami team that is very beatable. VCU hosting Temple, a game that is very winnable. Fordham going to Madison Square Garden and taking down the St. John's team that is beatable. You have St. Bonaventure playing Florida Atlantic and UMass playing West Virginia in Springfield in games that are winnable. You have Dayton taking on Cincinnati in a game that is winnable. Those are 5 really, really big games against quality opponents where you are going to be able to have a chance to be able to boost the overall profile and the overall computer numbers of the conference as a whole. I'm not saying the A-10's got to get 5 of them. I'm saying it'd be nice if you go 3-2 in those 5 games. I'm saying it'd be really helpful if you could do something like have LaSalle pick up a win at Miami, right? So that's what I'm going to be tracking in the A-10 this weekend. 5 really, really big games, really important games for the overall standing of the conference as a whole. The best way to be able to get 2, 3, 4, 5 bids to the NCAA tournament, go out, win games like that. So we will catch up with you guys again next week. I want to get into this interview with Josh because he was quite entertaining and probably more interesting to listen to than listening to me sit here talking to a mic. So let's get into it. It's our A-10 Insider Podcast interview with Josh Cohen, UMass Center. And now let me welcome on to the A-10 Insider Podcast, none other than Josh Cohen, who's averaging 18 points, 8 boards, and 2 assists for a 5-2 UMass team. Josh, what's going on, man? I appreciate you being here.
Rob, thanks for having me on. It's great to be here.
So I think it's fair to say your transition to UMass has been about as seamless as it can be from a basketball perspective, right? Has it been that easy on your side? From the outside, it looks like you've had a pretty, I don't want to say easy transition, but it's gone pretty smoothly for you.
Yeah, I mean, I can't complain. The people that we have here at UMass did a really good job of when I got here in the summer of acclimating me to, how they work. It's a completely different system than I'm used to, but I've been here since the summer, and I've gotten used to the guys and gotten used to coach. So it was a nice transition.
Has it been about what you were expecting when you made the decision to commit there?
I didn't know too much when I was committing. The only thing I knew was Frank Martin was the head coach, and that's who I wanted to play for. So, Frank had a vision, and he had told me that in the recruiting process. So, everything's been truthful up to this point. He's never, told me one lie. So, I just am appreciative for that. Their honesty throughout the whole process. Everything's been, what they said it was going to be.
Let's talk about that, because I think that Frank, when you don't know him, is one of the, I think it's fair to say, most famously intimidating people in college basketball and coaches in college basketball. When you know him, he's a sweetheart, like he's a big teddy bear. Did you know that going in when you committed? Like, how well did you know what you were walking into in that situation? Because I feel like if you don't know him, it could be a little bit like, this guy yells a lot. What am I going to do here?
I mean, I knew him from his South Carolina run. That Final Four they had. A guy in our staff was on his team for that. So when I was on my visit, they kind of told me a little bit more about it. My brother was a huge Frank Martin fan, and so was my father. So when my dad and brother heard that Frank was coming to our house, they were really excited and they were pumped, and they kind of filled me in on everything. And everyone said that he was just a guy who got the best out of his players. From what I heard. And then when he came to my house, he kind of just was upfront and honest with me. He told me what I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear. So, and then throughout the whole process, he was just super upfront. So, once I kind of gained like his trust and we kind of had a good relationship, meeting with him and visiting and stuff, I felt like it was the best place to go. And, ever since then, people kind of get all too wrapped up in the yelling and the other stuff. But to be honest with you, if it's one of those things, if you can't cook, you got to get out the kitchen. Just like Frank is, you can't worry about how he's expressed. Frank expresses himself differently than any coach I've ever been around, but his words mean so much. It's not just like he's yelling at you because he's just trying to be a bad guy, but he's yelling at you so that you get in the right place so you can help your guy. He's the type of guy who's always going to have your back. And through this whole process, he's been super honest with me, and he's had my back the whole time. So I got his back. So we have had a great relationship so far.
Yeah, the one thing I've always said, when you have a coach that is intense like that, whether it's Frank Martin or Andy Kennedy or Bob Huggins or whoever it is, just look at the way that the players that played for him feel, right? And I think that all those guys, and you've kind of summed it up here, they always have his back and they always go to bat for him. And I think that it shows you that, yes, it's intense. Yes, there's yelling involved. Yes, he makes funny faces on TV, right? But at the end of the day, like, it's very important that you players know how he feels about you when it's not just go time when you're not on the court, right? Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's you got to watch how and look and see the players that play for Frank. And I think what you're going to see differently with this team than in past years, and I think a little bit definitely different from last year. Like, this is a Frank team. This is all the guys that Frank has wanted, and every kid on our team plays as hard as you can. Every practice is intense. Every drill that we do is intense. We play hard. We got guys that are very unselfish. So I think he really messes with this group, and he's kind of given us a lot more trust than I think he even expected at the beginning of the season. He's even said it, like, he trusts our guys to do things that he didn't really think we were going to be ready to do. So I think it's working really well both ways.
So when you were playing in the NEC last year, you were co-player of the year. You hit the portal, and you have power conference schools calling you. I believe the final list included Penn State and Florida and Iowa. Now, there's a lot of kids that would just see like Big Ten, SEC, the opportunity to play on ESPN every single game, and jump directly at that. And you didn't. Why?
I have really good people in my corner, man. My mother, father, they've done a really good job with me, raising me. And I included them in the whole process because, to be honest with you, their opinion is so valuable to me because they go to all my games. They've been to all my games since I could walk. So it was really important for me to be in a place where they can get to all the games, because my dad goes to every game. So does my mom. My mom and dad, they go to every game. So I'm going to go to a place where they have to take 2 or 3 flights to get there. That didn't seem fair in a way. And they understood that it was my decision. But I also had to factor that in a little bit. But I think the big thing for me was I wanted to play in a place where I fit. I saw where I fit in the process. There was a lot of schools that were recruiting me, that it wasn't even so much that I didn't fit with them or they didn't fit with me. It just, my game wouldn't have translated with how they played. So when I met with Frank, we had a whole film session. I was able to see exactly where I was going to fit in. Frank likes to play through bigs. So, and the A-10, I've always looked at the A-10 as a high-level basketball,
It is,
conference. So, everyone was saying, "Oh, you're going to go to the A-10." Like, I mean, the A-10's, as you can see this year, the A-10's a great league. So, I couldn't have been happier. It was a great fit and great league. It kind of just made sense to me. And the school of UMass is enormous for me. Like I went to a school with 1,800 students. Like this is so big on a different level.
Yeah, it would have been quite the shock if you ended up at one of those SEC programs that has like 50,000 kids in it. It's all those towns
Yeah.
are like the towns they live in are just the college and nothing else. Take me through like the process of transferring. I think it's really interesting that you say you sat down with Frank and you watched a whole bunch of film on how he's going to use you and how you're going to fit into what he wants to do. Because when you were coming out of high school, I got to imagine it wasn't quite that, right?
No. I only had two offers coming out of high school. So there was only a small group of people that really believed in me. And that same group of people traveled with me throughout my whole career. Um, Coming out of high school, it was pretty easy. It was either one school or the other. I went on two official visits. I had one Division II offer. And I picked the best place possible for me. I went to St. Francis University in Little Loretto, Pennsylvania, and I had an unbelievable experience for 4 years. It was awesome. I had a great head coach, great assistants. Andrew Helton developed me from my freshman year to senior year, and then it was just time for me to move on. One of the things for me in the portal was I wanted to see where I could kind of continue that family aspect of a program and have it at a higher level. So it like the UMass St. Francis, everyone sees it on a crazy different level. But for me, it was the same aspect of, okay, UMass wants to be a family and a community. And that's what I had in Loretto. So just coming here, it made it easier on me.
I think so much of about it's just fit too, right? And especially a guy in your position that has spent 4 years in college, that spent a year redshirting, right? That spent the first year playing in the middle of COVID when there's no fans in the stands, when it's just a very different vibe than what you would expect college basketball to be. So you're older, you're a little bit more mature, you kind of know what you want, right? And I think that that's the value in going after transfers. Is you're going after, you're going after adults instead of high school kids.
Yeah, it's tough. I can't imagine also being a high school kid getting recruited these days. Like, there's just so many people that you have to compete with. God bless me in a situation where I was right before all this COVID stuff happened. So, yeah, the portal's a crazy place. I didn't love it. I wasn't in it for too long. I took one official visit. I wasn't trying to go on a bunch of vacations. Like it was just, I don't know. I think for me it was a little different than most people, but it can get crazy. I think people get wrapped up in money and where they want to go and what they want to do. For me, it was just my family, where basketball saw me fit, where my faith, I could continue that, and it just kind of all lined up for me.
What the first day that you put your name in, how many texts did you get? How many calls did you get? Were there any like coaches that you hit? There's like, what, this guy's hitting me up right now. Wow, look at this.
I think one of them was Frank. When I entered the portal and I got a call from Derek Kellogg. He used to be an assistant coach at UMass, and he was like, "Listen, our head coach wants to talk to you on the phone. Is there a time that you can?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll talk to him today." And Frank called me that morning, and I started building my relationship with them. One of them was Frank, and there was a bunch of coaches that I was like a little like, I'm from St. Francis University. I don't, I never been even coming out of high school. I don't think anyone ever. I think someone would have bet their house on it that I wouldn't have been getting called by SEC Big Ten schools. So I mean, for me, all of it was pretty cool. I appreciated everyone who had recruited me, and for me, it really wasn't about like that I wanted to go to the Big Ten or something like it. It didn't really matter for me. Wherever I fit best, that's where I was going to go. So yeah, like that first morning was nuts. My head was spinning, and I was on a drive. I was driving home from Loretto too. So my buddy was driving the car, and I was just like hitting accept every call, and just going from there.
You said something interesting there that you only had two scholarship offers coming out of high school, right? I believe I saw somewhere that you were 6 foot when you were a freshman in high school. Now you are 6'10", if I'm not mistaken. How did where did this development come from? Was it just kind of like you were a late bloomer? You didn't get didn't figure out the coordination thing until you were in college, or was it just you grew late and people didn't see the talent until you actually proved that you had that talent?
I think the thing for me was I'd grown up my whole life. I was a point guard, and everyone looks at me like, "You were a point guard." Like yeah, I played the point for my father. And I think that really helped me transition in being a big man because I was able to see the court from a different way. Not just from a big's perspective. I was able to see it from a guard's too. So I think that helped me a lot. But I grew a lot. I was a lot of growing pains. I was learning a new position. Obviously I'm not the most athletic guy in the world. So a 6'9", 10 big when I was in high school who wasn't dunking everything wasn't really the guy everyone was looking after. But there was one guy, Andrew Helton, who was, strolling around and saw that my ball went in. That's what he said when he was recruiting me. He was like, the ball just goes in. I don't know how it does, but it does. So he was like, we want to, try and get you up to campus. And Rob just kind of called me, and I went up to elite camp, and he got to come down and see me play. And so did Coach Horrenda too. I'm still close with him. He was at FDU. He offered me too. Him and Bruce Hamburger, but yeah, I wasn't getting, and it wasn't like I was getting interest from a bunch of places either. I had two schools, so it wasn't obviously a hard decision, but it was a lot of struggle, especially when you're trying to look at it. I wanted to play college basketball. A lot of people were telling me that I wasn't going to play college basketball, so it's weird. I would love to go back and talk to my junior year self and say it's going to be all right. There was a lot of stressful nights, but it ended up really working out for me. I trusted my faith, and the Lord put me in an amazing spot, and I was able to get things done.
So I talked with your old coach over the summer. We did a publication called The Almanac where we preview all 362 Division I teams. I had the NEC. So I talked with Rob about, you lost some guys to transfer, and he held you up as a guy that kind of went through the process the right way, right? You get to school, you redshirt, you get better every single year. I think you average 6 and 5 as a redshirt freshman. You get better as a sophomore. You're co-player of the year as a redshirt junior, and you graduate. You got your degree. You gave them your 4 years. You honored your commitment, and now you head off to a bigger institution and a bigger program that you earned. And I enjoy seeing players like you that kind of go through this process and take it step by step, and it's not rushed. And it feels like, and I think people listening to this interview will agree, that you understand the value of the position that you're in now, right?
Yeah, I mean, it broke my heart leaving St. Francis. Like I didn't want to leave. I had all my best friends there. I had the best coach in the world. I couldn't have imagined any other 4 years. It really hurt leaving. It wasn't one of those things where I was like, all right, I'm packing my bags, I'm out of here. It was and I could have left after my junior year too. I was most improved player to leave. But I felt like there was unfinished business to do. And at the time, it was like my plans aligned with Coach Rob's, what he wanted to do for the future. So I wasn't going anywhere. And then it just, it changed. I was graduating. There's a lot of different factors involved. And I had felt you could feel on a team if you're going to keep all your guys back. So I was just upfront and honest with Coach Rob, and that's one of the things I think kids get lost in the transfer portal is like, if you don't have your degree and you're hopping around all these different places, and one day you're gonna sit down and you're gonna be like, wait, I got to get this done. Like that's the reason why you go to school. Except for like 20 freshmen who get drafted every year. There's a lot of kids that are bouncing around and not getting a degree. I was blessed enough where I did my 4 years, I got my degree, and then I was able to go out and do new things. So I always have that to fall back on. So yeah, I think I did it the right way. It always hurts in the grand scheme of it. I still watch every one of their games. I'm a huge fan of them. But yeah, it's the transfer portal process and the whole thing. It hurts everybody. It's not there's like, especially in my position, like there wasn't just like I was there for a year and I left. I have an emotional attachment to that, and yeah, I don't know. I honestly think if I were to go back my freshman year and everything, and this whole transfer portal process was happening, who knows what would happen if I was a redshirt player who wasn't playing. Like, I'm so happy that this all happened after I had graduated and not when I was younger, because I would have made some bad decisions. It's hard to make those kind of decisions at 18 versus when I was 22.
It's hard to make those decisions at 22, man. It's not
it is.
Life is complicated. Doesn't matter what you're doing. All right. So I need you to be honest on this one for me. A buddy of mine called one of your games last year. I think it was on ESPNU. I forget who you were playing, but he texted me after watching the film. He's like, "You got to see this kid, Josh Cohen. I call him NEC Kola Jokic." And I was like, okay, that's a pretty good nickname. If you knew that nickname was out there, would you still be back at St. Francis right now? NEC Kola Jokic.
NEC Kola Jokic. That's a great nickname. No, I still wouldn't be back there, but that is a good nickname. That is a good nickname. There's a lot
Kola
of
Jokic just doesn't have the same ring to it.
I don't know what it is, but everybody finds a nickname for me. Like there's a couple of games that like I've had family members call me back and they're like, "Oh, they called you the big fundamental," or they called you, "Oh, the big, this or this." I'm like, wow, like, oh, man, like I don't know, just Josh. Like I don't know, but that is funny.
There's something about big guys that can pass and score in the post. They just got to have a nickname, man. All right, so
Yeah,
I got some fun ones for you here. 5 more questions. It's Jersey stuff. I know you're a Jersey guy. I'm a Jersey guy, so I'm going to start you with this. You grew up in North Jersey. I'm assuming you were Giants, Yankees, Knicks, where you grew up.
Yep. Yeah. Central Jersey, but everyone calls it, north or south, but I call it central.
So we're going to get to that question here in a second, but now you're in Massachusetts where it's Pats, Sox, and Celtics. Are you making friends? Okay. Like, are you getting along with people on campus?
No. A lot of my managers, I mess with them all the time. I think the Celtics are going to win the NBA championship. I'm a Knicks fan. I've been a Knicks fan since we were like 16 and 50. So, I like to mess with them a little bit, but yeah, definitely it's huge. It's way bigger. I feel like of a rivalry for the Boston guys, especially with the Yankees and Red Sox, because the Yankees have been so much better. But it definitely is a fun rivalry to kind of mess around with guys and kind of like stir the pot.
Yeah, you got to let them know. All right, Taylor ham or pork roll?
Pork roll.
Pork roll.
My family owns a bagel shop too, so I listed it on the menu. It's pork roll.
It's pork roll. Okay, yeah, I've always been it's a pork roll guy, and you're gonna go buy the Taylor ham because that's the name of the brand. It's like Kleenex versus tissues, right? They are tissues, and you buy Kleenex. Wawa or Sheets?
Wawa, easy. Sheets is awful compared to Wawa. Wawa coffee is 10 times better than Sheets. Sheets has the worst coffee in the world.
Yeah, you didn't get converted when you were in Central Pennsylvania?
No, they did not get me. They tried, but no way.
All right, so the next question I had was, does Central Jersey exist?
100%. I don't know how it doesn't. Like we're in the middle of the state too, especially like if you talk to anybody like, oh, I'm from Central, like no one's ever like, oh, I'm from South Jersey. Because South Jersey you consider like Atlantic City, Wildwood, North Jersey's Bergen County. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm from Monmouth County. It's Central Jersey to everybody around there.
Yeah. So I live right outside Philly. I live in Mount Laurel, which is Burlington County. And that is like the definition of Central. You are literally right there in the middle of the state. You're not north. You're not south. It's almost more Philly than it is Jersey because there's nothing but Eagles fans around here. But yeah, it's Central Jersey does exist. When you're going down the shore, where are you going?
It depends on like if I'm going to the Jersey Shore, China, like I'm bringing all my teammates, we're hitting Manasquan, Spring Lake, right around DJs and all those places. So, that's kind of like my hometown right around there. So yeah, definitely going to Belmar, everywhere around there.
All right. And so the last one I got for you. At Media Day, Matt Cross told us a story where when he was 16, before he had his license, the team bus driver left the bus running. So he jumped in the bus and drove the team from where they were staying to the practice facility and back. And I don't know if that was necessarily legal, but he did it and he told us that story. Have you seen anything like that from him since you've been at UMass? You got any good Matt Cross stories? Because from what I hear from people is there's always a good Matt Cross story somewhere.
Yeah, I can either confirm or deny that, but yeah, Matt Cross is he's an interesting dude, man. He's a great guy. My experience with him so far has definitely been interesting. So there's definitely been stories. I heard about the bus stealing story. I mean, he told us one day he had us all dying and laughing. But yeah, there's a bunch of Matt Cross stories. Definitely one day. Definitely got to get him on the pod.
Yeah. Oh, we will at some point. Maybe after the season when he can't get in trouble for some of the stuff that he tells us. All right. So we'll end it with this. We're going to fast forward. It's late February. It's early March. UMass is sitting there. They're a game out of first place. They're sitting there. They're competing for an A-10 title. What is the one thing that has to happen for that to be a reality?
We just got to stay together as a squad. That's the one thing we've been preaching. Stay together, tough times, especially with a young core group. It's hard. You can't see the bigger picture. When things are going wrong or you lose a game here and there, you got to forget about it and keep moving on and stay together. So if UMass can find a way to stay together and just keep going on our goal, we're going to win a lot of games. We're going to be in a good position at the end of the year.
Josh, it's been a pleasure, man. Stay strong
Rob,
up there.
thanks
Don't
for
let
having
those
me on, man.
Massachusetts guys break you.
I won't. I definitely won't. Definitely won't.